Hello and welcome. So, if you recall, around January they offered Silver and Gold membership, and one of the benefits was guaranteed beta access. So, here it is the RS3 closed beta registration for those who didn't purchase the Silver and Gold membership. If you did, you're already in. But those who have not can sign up with this. The sign up is only available for members, but they may add FTP later. The only thing that actually changes with RS3 is really how the game looks, not exactly the actual gameplay, but they did talk about adding in incentives with testing the RS3 beta, because if you spend 1 hour playing the beta, that's 1 hour that you could have used doing something else, like training a skill. But that aside, I want to quickly go over the behind the scenes. So first up, there was RS3 beta, as said earlier. They already did the introduction of dual wielding weapons to Dungeoneering and Charming Imps that collects charms. And, well, the Charming Imp part was kind of needed, because pre-EOC charm collecting wasn't that hard. The fastest attack speed was 1 auto per 2.4 seconds, whereas you needed maybe 3 game ticks to loot and run back to whatever you were attacking. But in the EOC, you have 1 ability per 1.2 seconds, so that doesn't leave any room to actually pick up the loot, so this update was actually really needed. The next planned update is a graphical update to Castle Wars, as well as changes to the trim requirement, where instead of how many games it's dependent on, it's getting a certain amount of tickets to purchase some armor, so you actually have to win the games to finish the trim requirement. Now, the problem with the previous system was that it made loafing around in Castle Wars much more common. The new trim requirement, it's replacing the old one, but it's not perfect either, since, well, it just makes boosting Castle Wars games much more common. Now, I don't believe that they'll ever actually solve the problem with the trim requirement in Castle Wars, because as long as there's a trim requirement there, people are just going to boost the games. They do plan to change the ticket system. Before, you got 2 tickets if you won, 1 ticket if it was a tie for each team, and 0 tickets if you lost. The tickets you win will be replaced with gold tickets for winning that are used to purchase the armor, weapons, whatever stuff. They will also be awarding both teams, regardless if they win or not, with silver tickets to purchase the consumables such as the stuff on screen, so you won't have to waste Castle Wars ticket on consumables and be even further away from whatever armor you're trying to buy. But the changes they do mention is they plan to put an altar in the spawn room, including improvements to the lobby system so you don't have to wait as long, something like that. Now, this covered Castle Wars. For Duel Arena, it's mostly a graphical change as well, but they also plan to make duels instants to avoid being unable to start a duel because of the arena just being too full. They plan to improve the XP from charm sprites, not really that important. More changes to combat. Now, I could speculate on the effects, but it really depends how severe of an effect it is. Like, is it going to be a big change or a minor change? Like, how much will damage scale by level? How much will offensive armor boost in damage? And will overload and turmoil be a significant or small boost to damage? And the last notable feature update is Instance God Wars. For you to get Instance World, you have to pay a small fee. Now, how much is small? I'm kind of hoping for at least around 100k, so cash actually leaves the game, because it's been so long since items actually left the game through item sinks. Like, there was Bounty Hunter, but without Bounty Hunter, yeah. Now, God Wars items have been dropping for ages now, ever since God Wars has been released. The prices of the item may not have changed that much, like 20 mil to like 10 mil-ish. That's not a big difference. But what has changed a lot is the value of the GP. Like, a simple way to put it is 20 mil back then would probably buy you a lot more than 20 mil now. Now, they did mention there was a hard mode version of God Wars. Basically, you fight the God Wars bosses from the World Awake. Sadly, I don't have backing footage of this, but you just fight the bosses from the quest. They have higher stats than the ones from the quest because the quest was meant to be easy. They said that they drop better loot, probably only mean better basic loot, because it's not likely that they're going to introduce an enhanced version of the Bandle's chestplate, unless this is going to be the more offensive armor they're talking about. It's kind of unlikely, though. And that's kind of all there is to it. Sadly, I was kind of hoping that they would do more with it, like maybe with each wave, like each time you finish killing all the boss and minions, have them become progressively harder. Then have like maybe high scores for who can complete the most waves, completed solo, something like that to put a competitive aspect to PvM. Or have a horde mode where it introduced more monsters with each wave, including more bosses from the other factions. Although this is kind of just like Jad, where it gets harder with each wave, but they could also put a high score for Jad, where who could do it the fastest, do it for the fight killing as well. Or, I mean, they could have done it with the fight cauldron. I don't know why they didn't, although that's kind of more. It's meant to be a training area, I guess. Now, these are just small improvements that they could do to make PVM kind of competitive. Although, I'll probably refine this idea and make a video on that, but this is kind of just what I feel is needed, or actually, this is probably just what I personally want, is a high score based on skills-ish, like the duel tournaments, but not something that the only way to be number one is whoever could grind the longest, like every other minigame, and high score on the high scores. So this video probably went longer than it needed to, but I guess, like, I think, like, I'm not sure what you guys prefer, like short videos to the point, or more relaxed videos where I expand the topic and talk about it a bit, but not too much, because maybe 10 minutes on something that's pretty simple is a bit too long. But if you actually made it this far in the video, I would like to thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.